Welcome back to Beyond the Bell, Real Talk for Real Teachers. I'm your host, Quincy Pierce. We're back for episode 2. On today's episode, we will be diving into one of the parts of teaching that doesn't always make the highlight reel. Today, we're going to be talking about meltdowns. We all know what they are. We've all seen them. But we're not just talking about our students' meltdowns. We're going to be talking about our meltdowns as well, how we handle them as adults, and what those meltdowns mean. So sit tight. Let's get right into it. All right, let's jump into segment 1, episode 2. This segment is called When It Hits the Fan. Every teacher has this moment. That one moment where your classroom goes from calm to chaos in about 2.5 seconds, right? A chair moves. Someone doesn't get the seat they wanted. Someone doesn't get called. Someone doesn't get a turn. Pencil breaks. Someone says the wrong thing. Suddenly, our students are having a full-blown meltdown. Crying, screaming, throwing things across the room. We've all seen it happen. You as a teacher, your heart rate spikes. Your brain starts scanning for what to do next. And you're thinking, how do I keep everyone safe, including myself? As an ED teacher, I've been in this situation more times than I can count. And the truth is that no matter how many trainings, how many books we read, how many experts we listen to that tell us exactly how to handle this situation, nothing prepares you for that moment when it happens in real life and you are face to face with your first meltdown. And I will say it's not even the first meltdown. I don't know that it gets easier. You get better at it. You get better at having a script of things to say, having your planned response. What happens when that plan doesn't work? We as teachers have to be able to adapt on the fly to each individual situation. Every meltdown is different, right? Every meltdown starts with something different. Every meltdown ends with something different. Every meltdown has an end goal that is different. And our job as a teacher, when one of our students enters fight, flight, or freeze, our job is to stay calm, right? But that's not a natural response to chaos. It's learned. We as adults have learned how to deal with chaos and learned how to stay calm in it, but our students haven't learned that yet, most of the time. In my experience, if I can remain calm, that can help find the calm for my students. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect at this either. There's a lot of times where I deal with a meltdown and I don't stay calm. And typically it escalates the student's meltdown, the student's behavior. Right? But if I can stay calm, it can help the student find their calm, because regulation is contagious. Right? Regulation is contagious. If I meet their chaos with more chaos, both lose. Because I'm going to spike my emotions, and it's not going to help bring the kid down. Right? They're going to meet my emotions. They're going to meet me where I am. Right? If I meet the student where they are, way up here, they're either going to meet me here or they're going to take it to here, and then I'm going to meet them here, and it just keeps going. So the number one thing when it hits the fan in your classroom is to not meet the kids where they are. We need to get them to meet us where we are, and we need to stay calm, and we need to be the adults in the situation. That's textbook, right? That's what we hear in every training that we're in. That's what we read in every teacher book. Be the calm in the chaos. Now, I don't think that you necessarily have to do that. I shouldn't say have to do that. That is what you have to do. Are we going to do that every time? No. And we'll get into that later in this episode. When we have our meltdowns and we lose it as a teacher. But the number one thing when it hits the fan is I have to get that student to meet me where I'm at, and I need to stay grounded and calm. That brings us into the second segment of today's show, which is called Behind the Behavior. What's behind the behavior that we're seeing from our students? When a kid melts down in our room, it's not always about disrespect. It's not about acting out. It's communication. It's their nervous system saying, I can't handle what is happening right now. Maybe it stems from trauma. Maybe it's sensory overload. Maybe it's just a long morning or a long evening the night before. They didn't eat breakfast. Maybe they didn't have supper. Maybe they haven't eaten in a couple days. But every meltdown has a story. When I deal with a behavior, I try to look at it from the point of, what is this behavior trying to tell me? Maybe the student is having a rough time at home. Maybe mom moved out or dad moved out, or maybe they all got kicked out of their house. What's their behavior trying to tell me? Once you know kids well enough, you can tell when the behavior is stemming from something outside of the room. Okay? Outside of what we see on a day-to-day basis. Right? And like we talked about in the first segment of the show, if I look at every behavior that happens on a day-to-day basis in my room, and I take it personally, like this kid says he hates me, you're the dumbest, Mr. Pierce. Mr. Pierce, you're so bald. You got no hair, baldy. Like, if I take all of that personally, there is no way that when my student is up here, I can meet them down here, get them to come back down to me. I'm going to meet them up here, and it is going to just, it's going to turn into this. That's not me saying an opinion. That's what's going to happen. If I take everything that a student says or a student does that is acting out or a behavior, if I take it personally and I take it to heart, I am never going to be able to keep my cool and be calm in that situation. Because now all of a sudden that kid is no longer, the student that didn't have breakfast, or the student that hasn't slept in a bed for 2 weeks, or the student whose mom just up and left. Now they're the kid that he's that kid, right? He's just that kid. When I take it personally, I can no longer differentiate the behavior from the student. I could have 2 great weeks with this kid. He's an A student. Awesome. We laugh, we joke. And then he has one behavior and I take it personal, and now all of a sudden all of that relationship building is out the window. Because I took something that a 10-year-old said personally, or a 13-year-old, or a 15-year-old, or an 18-year-old, whatever age group you teach. We've all heard it. We've all had the student call us out, right? They have a behavior in our classroom, and when we try to handle it, they immediately come back with, "Nuh-uh, Mr. Pierce. Well, you're just a big fat dummy." Or worse. Trust me, I've heard worse. I'm going to try not to repeat the worst things I've said on here. But we've all heard it. And it is very natural when a student calls you an a-hole or a B word. It is human nature to want to lash back with something. I'm the adult, you're the student, get out of my classroom. But when we take a second and we go, why is this kid talking to me this way? What is causing this kid to think that he needs to talk to me like this? It can help us shift from reacting to it to understanding it, right? And when we shift from reacting to a behavior to understanding a behavior, we open the door to empathy. And that's when the real teaching starts. And I think the trick is that you need to have the mindset of connection before correction. I can't correct a kid on behavior if I don't have a connection. Right? If the kid doesn't trust me and have a relationship with me, they're not going to respond. Right? When they're in survival mode, when they're in fight, flight, or freeze, they don't hear our words, but they feel our energy. Right? So when I stay calm and I maintain positive body language, and they know that they can trust me because I've spent time and I've put in the effort to build that relationship with that kid. Once they calm down, then we can start to talk about why the behavior happened. Right? So many times I've had a kid, I get called to a classroom. "Mr. Pierce, you got to come get this kid. He's having a meltdown." Call it a meltdown. And so many times I go in and the kid is, we'll just go to this one. So I get a call to a classroom. I need to come get this kid because he's having a meltdown. All right, I'll be right there. I get down to the classroom. I walk in. The teacher has removed the rest of the class. It's just my student sitting there. And he's sitting at his desk. And he's got his hood up and his head down. And he's nonverbal. Okay. I don't go in and go, "All right, dude, let's go. You got to get up and walk with me, or I'm gonna pick you up and carry you out." No, the first thing I do is sit down and I put my hand on his back, crouch down next to him, and I just say, "Hey, when you're ready, let's walk down to my room and we can talk about this. I'll give you your space. I won't mess with you. Just come with me." Sometimes it happens right away. Right? Sometimes the kid sees me, hears my voice, they'll come with me right away. Sometimes I got to sit there next to them in their desk for 5 minutes, right? 10 minutes, whatever it is. He's not hearing what I'm saying. He's not hearing me say, "Come on, man, let's go to my room." But he can hear he can hear the tone of my voice. He can hear the calm in my voice, and he knows he's not in trouble with me. He might think he's in trouble with the entire school, but he knows he's not in trouble with me because he can hear my voice. He can feel my energy. That is connection over correction. And then once I get him in my room, give him a little time, 5-10 minutes later, we're talking and he tells me exactly why he got upset. And then we can talk through the behavior and how to handle it the next time. When we lose it too, right? As much as we can sit here and talk, I could talk to you for hours about student meltdowns. Hours and hours. Stories of their meltdowns, how I handled it, how I didn't handle it, what caused it. But the one thing that we don't talk about, I think, enough as teachers is what happens when we lose it too. What happens when we, the adult, are the ones that have the meltdown? Right? There are days where we show up to work at 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock, whatever time we show up, and we're stretched thin. I've got a million things to do. I've got an IEP meeting in the afternoon that I haven't started any paperwork for. I've got another IEP that's due today I need to get finalized. I've got grades to enter. I've got progress reports to do. Right? We've all had those days. And any little small thing, right? I walk in that morning stressed about everything that I have to do, and the smallest little thing, disrespectful tone, an interruption, a defiant look, sends us right over the edge. Little Johnny walks into our room, and we say, "Good morning, Johnny," and he goes, 6, 7. And we say, "Get out. Get out." Right? Or we chew his butt out, we chew the whole class out because we're tired of the disrespect and the little interruptions and the little sayings and all of this stuff, and we're just tired of it. And that's okay. We're human. We have those days. We all have them. But the important part is to notice it. Right? I see a lot of times where I'm guilty of that kid probably didn't do anything more than what they do on a daily basis. But I was in a bad mood and I lost it. And rather than reflect on it right away and say, wow, he really didn't deserve that, I stew on it, right? And this is something that I have noticed about myself, and I'm working on it to get better at it, right? Noticing what my triggers are, what situations make it the hardest for me to stay calm in the day. Because when I notice what those things are and I see those triggers, then it gives me a chance to pause and collect myself before I react to the behavior. Now, this episode has been a lot about how we should respond to meltdowns, behaviors, different things in our classroom that we've been taught a certain way to do things. And we just have to remember those teachings, but we also have to respond to everything differently. Right? One of the things we're not taught enough about is what happens when I don't handle a situation the right way. It is okay to ask for help from your colleagues, right? It is okay to say, wow, I'm making this situation worse. I need someone else to step in. Right? When I start to feel myself getting upset with a student, the best thing I can do is just walk away from it. And maybe I tag in my principal. Maybe I tag in one of my paras. right? Take a deep breath and just say, I have to let someone else handle this right now. Now, as an ED teacher, I'm going to say, don't do that every time. don't don't call every little thing just because you don't want to handle it, but know your limits and be able to read the situation. And when you're having a rough day and you can't meet your student in a calm way, don't blow it up, right? Don't make it worse. And just know that we all do it. We're all guilty of this at some point in our teaching career and multiple times. I don't care if you're a first year teacher or you're in your 35th year of teaching. We all have days where we walk in the building and the smallest little thing sets us off. And that's fine. But when you do lose it, how do you fix it? Right? A simple, hey, I was frustrated earlier. I shouldn't have raised my voice. It goes a long way for our kids. It goes a long way. And it's a great teaching tool for those kids that do have behaviors in your classroom. When they see us melt down, they see us as human too. And when we come back after the fact and we say, hey, I'm sorry I was so hard on you earlier. That's my bad. I was having a rough moment. And when you broke your pencil, it just sent me over the edge. Like, it just made me upset. And I apologize. I know you weren't trying to be disrespectful, but I took it that way, and that's on me, and I'm sorry. That is a great way to model for our students what it looks like to repair a relationship after a behavior. This last segment, repair and reconnect. So after a meltdown, whether it's theirs or ours, the next step is always repairing that relationship. Okay, that can look any kind of way, whatever works for you and that student. It might be a calm check-in, maybe a walk outside, maybe you two just sit in silence until words are ready to be said. Whatever repair looks like to you, do you. Okay? Because in the end, what matters the most is that we're showing our students that relationships can bend without breaking. And just because we have an argument or they have a behavior or we have a meltdown, it doesn't mean that that relationship is broken, right? It doesn't throw away all of the good things that they have done, all of the good things we have done together with them, okay? And that's a lesson that they will carry with them far beyond the school walls. Okay, that is a real life lesson that a lot of our students need to learn, is that just because there's a problem doesn't mean relationship needs to be over. This is how I make up for mistakes that I have made. Okay, and I'm going to leave you this week just a little thinking point. If you want to share in the comments on YouTube, go ahead. Drop a comment. But what does regulation look like for you? What does it look like? Maybe it's what you feel or how you carry yourself when you were regulated versus unregulated. Maybe share a story about a student that you've had that you know you could tell when they were on and when they were off. Okay? What does regulation look like to you? Just remember, it's not always about being perfect for our students. It is about being present. Because every time we choose calm over control or empathy over ego, we model exactly what our kids need. And we're showing them how to be a good human being. And in the end, that's the most important thing that we can give our students. Be successful Beyond Bell. Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Bell. Today's episode hit home for you. Make sure you share it with a friend, share it with a colleague that gets it. Remember, you can find Beyond the Bell on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on all socials, TikTok at Beyond the Bell Show, Twitter and YouTube at Beyond the Bell Ed. I'm Quincy Pierce, reminding you that teaching is heavy work, but it's also hard work. Don't forget, take care of yourself, take care of your students, and always remember you are making a difference even on the hard days. See you again next week on Beyond the Bell.